Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Catt Fields White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us.
During this past tense, future tense season of Tent Talk, we're looking at where we've been and where markets are headed. In this episode, live from the 2026 Intense Conference, Catt and author David Sax discuss all the ways that we can leverage the human connections that are core to farmers markets in the age of AI and digital delivery systems. The future may be brighter than we think. Listen in.
All right. Now that we are fully relaxed and feeling calm, hopefully not sleepy, but just in a state of relaxed listening, we are ready for our first session of this morning, our third day of the conference this morning. Next up, we're going to welcome Catt and David for their session. The future is analog. Catt Fields White is the Intense National Farmers Market Conference producer. I'm sure that's not new information for you. If you've made it this far in the conference and not aware of that, it's too much yoga, too sleepy. She's also the co-host of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, and still an active farmers market manager. She's also an avid reader and author fangirl and is thrilled to be in conversation with David Sax this morning. Just a personal antidote about Catt and her addiction to books. This is an intervention. Right now we're having it. my earliest memories of childhood all the way to literally last Friday, our family's had conversations with Catt about my mom, Catt, about how many books she has and how many nights she stays up all night reading. So she's so tired in the morning. She's just always been such an avid reader and lover of authors. And I love that she always brings the most interesting authors to this conference. It's always taught me so much, and we always get such great feedback from our attendees. So really excited about this session and to learn from David as well. David Sax is here, very excited. He's an author, journalist, and speaker from Toronto, Canada, an aspiring war journalist. He ended up writing about wine in Argentina and then a book about pastrami, because of course. He's the author of 5 books, including the international bestseller, The Revenge of Analog, Real Things and Why They Matter. Very relevant to all of us here. And also The Future's Analog, How to Create a More Human World, The Tastemakers, and The Soul of an Entrepreneur. David takes the lessons learned while researching and writing books and breaks them down to share with audiences like us, shifting their perspectives on the world. Very excited for this session. Please welcome Catt and David.
Could we just do more yoga? That was what I needed.
Yes, that was a nice start. Some mornings have had real lively starts where we've gotten up and followed people around doing rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah, this was kind of gentler. It's Wednesday.
Chia seed pudding and boiled eggs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. A couple of David's books that are actually in the merch shop this morning. So, if you want to get yours and take it home, it's farmers market stickers. Hey, so welcome.
Thank you.
David came all the way from Toronto, Canada to see us. That's a huge sacrifice this time of year to leave the snowy climes.
Real tough sell.
I think he ended up in the ocean last night surfing, right?
Yeah.
And we first met in Philadelphia. Some of you know I go back and forth between San Diego and Philly. And David was giving a talk on his book at Philly Typewriter, which is just the most amazing store. And typewriters are certainly in the analog column when you look at things. I've got one that I pound things out on from time to time. I think you have one that you use now.
Yeah, they gave it to me as as a thank you for that. I had to lug it home. They don't ship them.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I was carrying the thing through like Penn Station and Union Station, New York, like I was a 1950s businessman.
Yeah, we love a good typewriter. So, David, how would you define analog? And maybe what the opposite of analog is.
Yeah. Analog is a broad term that I use to define things that aren't digital, right? So, there's a very technical definition of it. Let's say paper versus a Microsoft Word document, for example, like writing on a typewriter, that would be the analog equivalent. A vinyl record or a cassette tape or a live musical performance versus, let's say a compact disc or or streaming or an MP3. And you can sort of go here and there. So for, your world, buying on Fresh Direct or ordering on Whole Foods online versus going to the farmer's market would be sort of the digital analog equivalent. And it's a broad term and it's imperfect, right? So someone's like, yeah, but when I go to the farmer's market, I tap with my square. Does that count? It's like, yeah, of course that counts. It's not a religious fundamentally, defined thing. And there's all sorts of places where it bleeds over. And there's very few people who live an entirely digital life or an entirely analog life, right? There's a hermit somewhere, I'm sure that those people exist, but for the most of us, it's this blend of things. So it's really defining it as what is the core of the experience? Is the core of that experience or that object, for example, something that requires digital technology, computers, smartphones, AI now, I guess, to use? Or is that secondary? And the core of it is something that you can touch or feel or go to or see or smell.
So when you say the revenge of analog, do you think analog is on the rise? It's, you went on in the next one, the future of analog, to talk about. It was kind of centered in COVID and we were becoming more and more isolated. There's been a kind of a backlash on going back to offices and that kind of thing. Where are we now in the stage, 5-6 years past the future of analog?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because the conversation always shifts based on the digital technology du jour, right? So, when they first started looking at this close to 20 years ago, it was when the smartphone was first arriving. So it was even in the beginning. I was in Toronto. My friends were getting Blackberries, which was a Canadian company, right? From I don't know, less than 100 miles outside Toronto. And all of a sudden, their behavior was changing. But at the exact same time, that was when I started noticing people were getting turntables again, and there were film cameras for sale and board game cafes opening. And then it was about the iPhone and apps and social media. And there was that brief flirtation with the metaverse and virtual reality. I was like, everything's going to be in the. Right. You're going to have I'm sure someone said there's going to be metaverse farmers markets. Someone at some point was. They have it. It still exists out there. And what's it called? Second Life? Who knows? The desert of the metaverse. And now it's about AI. And all of these changes promise to fundamentally change our world, and everything's going to be different, and nothing's going to be done the same, and yada yada yada. And yet there are more bookstores, record stores, farmers markets, board game cafes, and sort of physical objects proliferating now, especially among younger generations, while they're still adopting these new technologies. So it's sort of like these two parallel lines that you're seeing of growth. But there's always the assumption, at least among the sort of Silicon Valley crowd or the boosters of digital technology, but once the next technology comes around, that will really be the end of these analog things. And yet the more of digital technology we introduce, the more the appetite for analog experiences to sort of counterbalance it seems to grow.
I mean, is there a backlash, like the high-tech, high-touch thing, right? The more tech we have, the more we crave human interaction.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the places where I've been fortunate enough to give talks and go to has been South Korea, because my first of the books, The Revenge of Analog, was translated there. It did very well. In South Korea, I had no idea about this. And I remember going in, and South Korea is really interesting because it is the most digitally connected and advanced country in the world. So they have the highest rates of internet penetration, smartphone usage, adoption of AI, adoption of robotics, like you name it, ones and zeros, they're all over it, right? The car companies, the battery companies, all that jazz. And yet they had like the most incredible bookstores and coffee shops with reading libraries and the most incredible libraries and the most amazing markets, obviously, that were nothing sort of new. But it was that the more you get of a digital sort of saturation in your everyday life, the more you look for alternatives to it, because we crave difference and variety. We don't just want everything through this, 4 square inch screen.
Yeah, it's a quandary. Is AI the absolute antichrist of analog? How far are we going?
Apparently, as my friend was telling me last night at dinner, it is. But again, I think it's the same. It's a different flavor of the same thing, right? It's Thomas Edison, the inventor, predicted when he invented film and recorded sound over a century ago that this would be the end of things like concerts and schools and teachers, because this technology would supplement this experience. It would be much more affordable, and you would be able to disseminate information much more readily and easily. And Thomas Edison was wrong, right? He was right that this technology was this incredible thing, and it was a game changer in so many different areas of our lives, professionally, personally, for pleasure. But the idea that it's that one thing will supplement that very human experience that we have of going places, doing things, meeting people, touching things, using our hands, using our bodies, is always this false one. It's not a choice we have to make. We can use AI. James was telling me how he writes his farmers market newsletter using whatever, Chat GPT. If anyone loved his newsletter, sorry, did I out you on that? It's proved, yeah. And then he goes in and puts the human touch on his typewriter. But
and then he hands it to each of his customers, right?
Well,
and delivers it. Yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday about those typewriter poets at so many farmers markets that I've seen. Like, if you're a 24-year-old with a literature degree, that seems to be the number one field for typewriter owners. Where was I going with this diatribe? Somewhere. So now it's AI, and tomorrow it's going to be AI plus robotics or whatever. Our robot's going to be, this is it. Robots can stack crates of peaches better than your humans can at the farmer's market. It's like, okay, but we still need, desire this sort of human touch, and we still provide a value, us flesh bots, which is... This is my yoga moves, guys. Don't judge. We still provide a value. And I think the fundamental thing is, at the end of the day, who is all this for? Like, we're not building these technologies to serve the technologies themselves. It's built to serve us as humans. And we humans still have very human needs, right? We are still physical creatures and emotional creatures. And those needs are served. They can be served by technology in some senses, but they're also served by the things that we've always known and our bodies and minds have evolved to crave and respond to, right? And that's the things that engage our senses and things that engage our emotions. And so as long as that's true, and we don't go full Terminator or full Matrix, which, there's a good chance that'll happen if we survive the humans, more faith. I don't know where I have more or less faith. But as long as that still happens, then as long as that's still the truth, then we're still going to see value in that. And no matter what new digital technology comes along, we're going to seek out those other things that we can't get from our screens or from our AirPods.
Yeah, still craving it. And that's why we see people still at farmers markets. You made a point in, I think, The Revenge of Union Square Farmers Market, which is very, very busy to this day. Been there a long time, still right across the street from Whole Foods, which is not in itself a digital experience. It's analog to an extent, even though a lot of people in there at this point are lined up to pick up Amazon food deliveries. But we can all coexist, right? Little of this, little of that.
And that's, one of the things that really struck me during the pandemic was the predictions. One of the reasons I wrote the second book, The Future is Analog, was at the beginning of the pandemic, March. I mean, what was it? 6 years ago, right? 6 years ago.
That's right.
Next week, or 6 years ago now, we're like, China. And then like next week, we're like, how many eggs? Where's the toilet paper? Right. And, we all, go and shelter in our places and all that fun jazz. And then you're like, how do I get groceries? And you're like, let's order. It's going to be safer. We got to bleach the eggs or whatever. And like, we ordered groceries online for the first time from a Canadian supermarket chain. And it was like, wow, it shows up. But it was just this like laborious, like, how many bananas? What do we want? Click, 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 2 hours of that. And I remember in what was it, May, when they opened the farmers market near where we live in Toronto, the Trinity Bellwoods Farmers Market, which has about maybe 20 vendors, very small. It's in a park. It's in this kind of X where these two paths meet. It's a great little small farmers market. And it was like, there was a lineup, you had to go through a checkpoint, and it was like all this wonderful hygiene theater. But that was like one of the most liberating and fulfilling moments. I spent more money probably at that day at the farmer's market than I had in the previous 3 months. It's not very hard at that farmer's market. It's like gold bars that they're selling next to the cheese. But what were the things that it was giving me? It was yes, I was getting produce, I was getting food, I was getting ingredients and things and flavors and tastes and products that I could touch and feel. And I finally didn't have to make my own freaking sourdough. Like, okay, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to buy this guy's wonderful loaf. But, I saw so many people. We were able to talk. Yes, we were wearing masks. And yes, there was this sort of, in Toronto, they said, stay 3 geese apart. That was the Canadian, 2 hockey sticks or 3 geese. But there was this wonderful feeling in that moment that instantly showed you the value of that thing. And I never went back to ordering groceries online after that first time.
That's good.
Because it's like, yes, I'm getting the food, I'm getting the things, but I'm also getting all these other ancillary benefits that I only realized I truly, really needed, or other people did, when they were deprived of them.
Yeah, for sure. We actually saw people scared to go inside grocery stores. I went to a grocery store, I don't know, about 2 months into the pandemic. I don't ever shop at grocery stores. I don't have to because I'm at a farmer's market several times a week. But went in and realized, and that was back when we thought that touching things and then touching things that other people had touched is what was going to give you COVID.
Right.
And saw people looking at things from the shelf and putting them back and looking at the ingredients and putting them back. I thought, whoa, I can't pick any of that stuff up now. I definitely don't want to be here. And I think a lot of people had that same reaction. It brought people to the farmer's market who had never been there before, because the only one who had touched your food at that point was the farmer before you. And you were outside and you didn't have to breathe other people's air and all that. So we actually saw an uptick in farmers market shoppers during the pandemic, and a lot of them have stayed with us, which is
interesting.
Great.
Yeah, I was thinking about the nature of farmers markets in North America before I came here. And, because we've all been to Europe or Mexico or wherever. I'm going to Oaxaca next week. So that's like, look at it, forget it. That is the land of markets. And I remember going, years ago to markets in other countries. I'm like, hey, why don't we have this? Like, who here's been to France? Yeah, vive that shit. The rotisserie chicken trucks. Yeah. Have you seen this? It's a truck that pulls up at a farmer's market at every farmer's market around France. It's not one truck. There's many of them. And like the back opens up and it's like a giant thing of rotisserie chickens just roasting away all day on the spit. And it fills, the aroma that
dripping chicken fat on the potatoes in the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Vive it. So it's this incredible thing, right? And us here in North America, like, why can't we have that? And then all of a sudden, farmers markets in, I guess, the 70s and 80s started growing and have really exploded over the past decades in the 2000s with sort of the farm to table slow food movement expanding out beyond, let's say, Northern California. So when we talk about the sort of revenge of analog of things, like vinyl records coming back, farmers markets as a business model of the type that you guys represent is very much analogous or similar to that, right? It is a outdated technology and an outdated form of doing things because it's less efficient than, the Ralphs or the Krogers or the Safeway or the Costco or, HelloFresh or whoever's delivering your groceries. And yet it's high value, it's high touch, it's a premium, it's a luxury, not in the financial sense, but a luxury of a greater experience. And I think that's the reason why there's your industry and your cohort and your peers have grown across every community, I think, around the continent, because it delivers something in a environment where the fallback, the supermarket, works totally fine, is totally efficient, and people love it, and it's great. And I go there way too many times a week, but it's not special, right? It's not. There's nothing, even a Trader Joe's, which we don't have in Canada, and I effing love. Like, even that isn't special in the same way of going to even the smallest, crappiest farm. Right? Not crappiest, but let's say humblest.
Okay, humble. That's better word.
Homespun. A farm stand.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was in Maine a couple summers ago. We were driving around, staying in this rented house in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't much around, apparently, because there was a huge prison nearby. I guess didn't look at that on the Airbnb listing. No one broke it. But my favorite thing was like at the end of the day, we'd be driving back for some beach or whatever, and there'd be like these farm stands, but no one would be in them. Full honor system, but with a square reader so you could tap. And you're like, okay, we need like 12 tomatoes and this and this. And oh, they got this jam. And oh, they have this chutney. And, let's get this little like knitted hat that no one will ever wear. Even that, like, it's like, wow, this is different from what's normally available to me. This is so different from the Walmart that we just came from.
Right. Yeah, because those stores have all of the same things. So you go to Kroger,
there's no surprise at a Walmart.
Yeah, it's all there. And it's stored and it's older and it doesn't taste the same as it does at farmers markets.
Well, I think that's too, right? So there's the uniqueness of the experience. Again, whether they're talking about a farmer's market, whether they're talking about going to a bookstore, an independent bookstore, a record store versus buying something online. Or at a chain store. And there is that quality, right? Like I know that if I buy a tomato in peak season, so for me, it's like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a generous 6 weeks, right? Toward the end of the summer. Like the tomatoes I buy at the Trinity Bellwoods Farmers Market by my house, there is no store in the city I can go to that will get me the quality of that tomato, the flavor of that tomato, right? I will pay for it. It will be more expensive, but like I will eat all of it. I will make stuff out of it. It will be incredible. It will like reset my faith in food and cooking and this thing and provides that value. And I think that quality experience versus the quantity of the experience is everything.
Yeah, that's what makes a huge difference. And that's one of the things we need to push. So what industries are actively marketing analog experiences? We need to, as farmers markets, to think about a way to
actively market,
position ourselves to remind people that analog is the goal.
Okay. Interesting. Hospitality. So you guys are in the hospitality business. You may not realize it. You think you're in the food and grocery business, but the food and grocery business largely competes on price. The hospitality business competes on service and a memorable experience, right? So you have more in common with the farm to table restaurant than you do with the Krogers and the Safeways and the Ralphs and the yada, yada, yada. That high touch, that very personal thing, that little greeting, that giving a little sample to the kid or the thing with the dog biscuits, like that goes not just a long way, but all the way to building deep relationships with customers, because especially it's a weekly thing usually, right? And so you're trying to build it in as a ritual. And what will bring people back for the ritual? Is it quality? Of course. Is it price? Sure, but you can always, farmers market's never going to be your cheapest place to buy stuff unless it's like a Amish one in the country or something like that, right? So what are those high touch, personalized elements of the experience? And I'm not saying that, your mushroom farmer has to become like a Gold Key concierge, like Ralph Fiennes in the Grand Budapest Hotel or Tom Hiddleston in Night Manager. But it's those little things. It's that smile, it's that engagement, and it's that ability to let people do the things that, again, are not available to them readily in the rest of the economy, right? You don't get that same greeting when you go into another store. You get it in Walmart, but it's almost like there's a gun to the person's head. Right?
To greet
you will greet. It was like the Gap greeters in the 90s. Well, doing the Gap, it's like, okay, just chill.
You haven't been to Trader Joe's, obviously.
I have.
Where they know you're all hit. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How's your
They do well. Like that's one of the reasons why Trader Joe's has this devoted following. It's not the biggest supermarket chain in the country, but I think it's the one with the most loyalty, because it's like, oh, this is a place. I remember the first time I went, it was in Boulder, Colorado a couple of years ago. And they were like, I'm like, do you have any, I don't know, cheese? And they're like, right this way, sir. And I'm like, oh, you're not just going to be like aisle 5, And so again, like when the other analog businesses that have grown in this period, despite the predictions of their demise, despite competing technologies that are far more efficient, how do they do it? The best example is bookstores, right? In the 1990s, at the peak of the independent book business, so really the 1980s, you had like 4,000 to 5,000 independent bookstores across the United States. And then came Borders, and then came Barnes and Nobles, which outdid them on price. And then came Amazon, which outdid Barnes and Noble on price and selection. You can get any book you want, anytime, delivered to your door now within hours, right? And really, it started to be around 2012 that we started to see the growth of independent bookstores again. So they went from 4,000 or 5,000 down to like 1,000 maybe, and now they've been growing steadily at a clip of I don't know, something like 3%, 4% a year. In terms of the numbers that are opening, in terms of the sales that are doing, in a very difficult and competitive business, selling a product that is the exact same. If you buy a copy of my book on Amazon and you buy a copy of my book on, name a San Diego bookstore.
Catapult Books.
Catapult Books, please give me your business. You're getting the exact same thing. You're going to get it cheaper on Amazon. But why would you go to Catapult Books? What do they provide? Well, a good bookstore, probably Catapult, you walk in and you say, okay, do you have a copy of Revenge Analog, whatever, but you're going to browse, you're going to see things. It's going to be a welcoming environment. And the people there will be able to engage with you and not just say, if you like this book, you'd like David's other 3 books. You're like, oh, what do you like about that book? Oh, can I recommend something kind of out of the blue, right? Like an Ursula Le Guin story that actually, if you really like thinking about technology, and again, it's that very human thing where it's just like, this is my experience. This is my perspective. Let me try to engage with you as another human and make some connection. And even though it's wrapped in this layer of commerce, there's that deeper thing where it's like, oh, if you really like the Taleggio I had last week, you got to try the tome. I'm speaking specifically of the cheese lady I know, Ruth at the farmer's market, who's like not the friendliest, like most bubbly person. She's a salty cheese. But she is, legend in Toronto and makes this incredible stuff. And she like will engage with you on that in a way that like you're always wanting to try new things because she's like, this is something that you would like. Trust me, you have a conversation. Those conversations are so few and far between that, again, that's where the value lies. So again, I think hospitality and let's say brick and mortar retail, where it's really sort of elevated beyond just food is that. And of course, food in the restaurant sense, right? In the hospitality in the sense of good restaurants, whether they're, a fancy restaurant or whether it's kind of like a humble place where they'll talk to you about the way they make their ribs or, how they do their tacos or whatever, right?
Yeah. And I think restaurants have found that too, that they can't compete on price anymore with rising wages and regulations and cost of ingredients. That's become a real challenge. And so there's been a lot of talk, Danny Myers and what have you, about you're selling food kind of, but you're really selling an experience. And I think it's so smart to remind us that that's the situation at the farmer's market as well. It's the relationships that we're selling. I think there's somebody attending this conference that has a farmer's market online delivery service. There's no such thing as online farmer's market. That's an oxymoron. The definition of a farmer's market, as Amanda Edmonds pointed out the other day, is an organized gathering of people, including farmers that are selling directly to consumers. And you can't do that online because there is no farmer's face. There's no farmer's smile or comment. Yeah. I think it's a good idea, though, that maybe we do train, if not our most surly farmers, some of the farmers and some of our staff to be concierges. Maybe what we need to use Jamie Hodges volunteers for is to be the same kind of folks that work at a museum that help you find your way around and point you towards the right department.
Yeah, I think there's something in that because in the, 8 hours or 7 hours or however many hours a week that thing opens and it closes, right? Ours by my house is like 3 to 7 Tuesdays from May till the end of October, sort of mid-November, right? And in the hours that's open each week, you are creating a community. You're creating a village, right? You're creating this. It is like when you go to Europe and it's like the rotisserie chicken rolls up and you're like, bonjour Pierre, you think you got surly farmers. Wait till you see the French. But in that moment, there's family. Someone was saying, my friend Erica and Ileana from the Hudson Valley last night, shout out, were saying, that their kids run around the farmer's market, and there's a pack of vendors' kids and farmer's market kids that run around. And there's other kids who come there from after school, and there's people who are walking their dogs, and there's the vendors. And there's always like certain people who are like the chef people, and certain people who like don't buy anything, but they're just there for like a popsicle and,
a selfie
in the bands or whatever. And there's the like full on. Last year I was at the farmer's market by my house, and I'm going to say schmuck, was live streaming the thing. He was like, I don't watch it. I don't subscribe. I don't know who this guy was, but he was like this muscle bound dude, may have been wearing a Trump hat, which in Canada is like you're really being a schmuck. But he was like, I'm at this market, these tomatoes are and it's just like, even they're within that community too, right? So it's this, you create this community that exists for this brief period of time, and part of it's in your control and part of it's not. But it's like, how does it welcome people? How does it bring them in? How do they leave? And you're like, oh, that is my favorite community that I'm a part of in my given week. And like, I will be back there next week. Not thinking of like, I must go to get kale. It's like I want to go to this place where there's these delicious things, but also these people and these sites and maybe some freaks that I'm going to see. And like, it's entertainment. It's all that. That's what, the peak of commerce is, right? Whether you're in a market traveling in Mexico or in Asia, or whether you are going shopping in a new city and you're just like, let's just bop around this area and check out bad surf t-shirts.
I mean, I think every farmer's market manager, and many people who are not farmer's market managers, but devotees, when they travel, the first thing they look for is the farmer's market in that area, because that's where you're going to feel the real community of the place.
That is me for sure. My wife is like, look for the markets. One of the markets. Is there a market going on? Like, there's a market 3 towns over. We got to go. I'm like, that's the day of our flight. She's like, we can make it to the market. No. I'm like, what are we going to buy at this market and fly home with? Oaxaca is going to be very difficult because we're going to Oaxaca City for like really only 2.5 days. And she's like, I want to go to this market and this market. And I'm like, this one only trades in raw pork. She's like, I don't care. We're going to go. So yeah. Shipping issues.
I had to laugh about the live stream because our own muscle-bound Larry Newhall live streams from his own market and carries on.
This was a vibe. His vibe was very different. I'm not shirking to Larry.
Different kind of thing. Yeah, so I think you're giving us some interesting things to talk about. Is there a secret weapon Analog can use to fight AI in the coming years?
I don't even think, first of all, I think of all the industries that are concerned about disruption, I would put farmers markets quite at the bottom of the list, if not just adjacent to the list on the side. I don't foresee how on earth, but maybe I'm wrong. If it kills all the humans and there's no humans, then fine. But again, bigger problems. I think if it's more that capturing people's attention would be the challenge, right? Which is always people have places to go, and now they're going to be distracted by various different things. But again, the secret to all, resurgent analog businesses, spaces, experiences is no secret at all. It's the things that have always made what you do interesting and special. And the reason why your businesses and industry has grown over a time of like intense food price competition, intense grocery chain and food retailer consolidation is what are the core things that make you different and special, right? It's the selection of products, it's the curation of an environment, and it's all those human touch points. It's relationships and experiences. Those things are the core, and you can't manufacture them and you can't bottle them. So one of the things I was talking about with someone yesterday is the rise of like the food hall. And so these people have gone and they've been like, oh, could we build a food hall? Like in Europe, we went to Spain and Italy and they had these food halls where it was a farmer's, an indoor farmer's market. And then they would have these restaurants that would make stuff and it was the best food in my life. And people are like, yeah, let's do it. We'll pair up with a real estate developer. And then you get crap like Hudson Yards or this new place in Toronto, The Well, $100, $200 million giant, mixed retail development. And it's like, it's a food hall and farmer's market. You're like, this is a food court in a grocery store. Like, this is like, it's not called Chick-fil-A, but it's basically a chicken finger restaurant, and there's signs like be local, and it's like owned by Sodexo. So I think that those are the things that more than AI, like that you have to not guard against, but define yourself in a different way. And I don't think it takes much thinking to do that. I think it's like doing the things you're doing, focusing on quality. As Larry said, does it pass the smell test? Like, is the tomato you're selling, are you hiring the best vendor because they make the best stuff? Like that is going to speak for itself. You don't have to re-engineer things or rethink it like you're Barnes & Noble reimagining how to sell books in an age where everyone can get them. And they've actually done a decent job of it recently. But it's like doing the things that you're doing is this almost default where humans for however many, whatever, 10,000 years plus since we invented modern agriculture and markets to trade with them, have been doing this thing. And ever since the Sumerians or whoever were, the Babylonians were going to their market and trading their breads and their grains for the produce and the lamb and whatever, like that remains unchanged. And I think that as long as you can keep that magic thing going, people will be drawn to it.
I mean, does it tend inherently to be something that's historically long lasting versus the digital stuff that kind of comes and goes and there's always a new version
of course. Yeah. Exactly. You're not working on, farmers market 5.0, right? The market gets bigger, it evolves, the things changes, but like the fundamental model of it is perfect. And so you don't need to disrupt. You need to be the anchor of stability, the calm amid all the disruption of all these other things, and let, Kroger and Wegmans worry about the price of tomatoes and how they're going to use AI to automate picking the tomatoes from the warehouse or whatever. You're still having people get their hands in the dirt, bring those things out of the dirt, put them in a truck, stack them up under a slightly shady tent that may blow over. I mean, I would just focus on tent securing technology. That would be my big investment. Shade technology and tent securing technology. That's the key.
Oh, maybe you have run a farmer's market. That's definitely
I have dodged many a shady umbrella at a farmer's market. But I think that's it. Like it's fundamentally it is what you're doing doesn't change and hasn't changed, doesn't need to change in order to meet the moment. You met the moment by being who you are. And so, dig deeper into that. Use the digital tools that many of you have open in front of you right now to learn and to disseminate your message and to research and to do the things that it can help you do. But the core of what you guys are doing is so fundamentally perfect and analog, obviously, that it doesn't need to be rethought or rechanged for that moment. It's already the safe haven, the antidote for all the tumult of digital.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that the level of disruption in the world as a whole right now, we hate to think of this as a marketing advantage in any way, but is it? I mean, is the fact that things are so crazy and seem so...
Look at the latest war. Come to our first one.
Right, yeah. I mean, we probably want to separate those in some way, but are people craving more local, more analog, more high touch as the level of chaos rises at the top of the chain?
I think I can't speak for people, but I think there is. I get back to that community thing, right? I think back to moments of distress in the past couple of years. Speaking of the current moment, this is some dark humor, so spare me a bit. But it was Tuesday. I was at my farmer's market. I see the news that 3 rounds of this war ago, Iran had fired missiles back to Israel. And so I text my friend, Michal, who's Israeli, and I'm like, I hope you guys are okay. She's like, yeah, I'm in my shelter. We're with the kids. We're okay. She sends a photo of them in a bomb shelter, whatever. She's like, how are you guys? I heard things are rough in Canada with Trump. I'm like, I don't know. The lineup at the farmer's market's 20 people deep, it's rough here. Be safe. But it's like, in moments where there's been stress and conflict of the past couple of years, and I imagine the next couple of years, going to that place for those moments or that hour that you go and spend there is this grounding exercise, right? It is seeing your neighbors. It is talking to Ruth, the cheese vendor. It's a reset in the everyday common sort of best reality that we have, which is that at the end of the day, no matter what's happening domestically, internationally, in our own individual lives, there's something reaffirming in neighbors and a community coming together to exchange pleasurable things, right? No one's selling printer paper, although maybe there'll be an artisanal printer paper maker. And having conversation, having moments of connection, that's like a really wonderful, beautiful thing. And I think one of the values of the farmers market that we don't really think about. You don't get that when you go to a Costco in the middle of a crisis, right? And I know people who live for Costco, like they are absolute devotees, but you don't get those conversations. You don't get that same grounding sense of connection with your neighbors and with everyone. And I think there's a comfort in that, but there's also this, and this is me extrapolating, but like in a country as divided as this one is, with as politics as tumultuous as they are, a farmer's market is a place where everyone can come together, right? There's no political litmus test for who you are. And I'm sure as many farmers from rural areas are going to have different views from people from Center City, Philadelphia, for example, or San Diego in the Central Valley. Like, you can get together and just talk about a tomato and talk about these things and connect about the weather and whatever. And you're like, oh, right. Like these are people in my community. These are people in my world. They're not what is online is going to be this or that. Right. And so I think that comfort again is one of the unsung values of the spaces that you guys create.
I think so too. Yeah. It's a neutral point that we're serving that niche segment that eats. So it kind of brings us all together. We've got about 10 minutes, it looks like, for questions. So anybody have questions for David on this? I have lights in my eyes, so I can't really see.
Online questions. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a virtual audience.
Don't let the online questions trump the in-person questions.
To see some hands here. We
Don't be shy. We should have planted a few. That's the case.
Yeah, where's my shills? I guess we said.
Oh, yes.
We've got one.
Someone had to break the ice. Also, this whole like university classroom setup here is the first I've seen for conferences, but it's really good. It's much better than the round tables where like half the people have to twist their bodies. And stuff.
Exactly. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're farmers market people.
Hi, this has been great. Thank you. I purchased the book at the merch swap a few days ago and have been reading it in the evenings. I consider myself a little bit of a Luddite. And I'm wondering if there's kind of two parts maybe to this question. One is, how do you see the sort of middle ground between using the tools, as you mentioned, the online platforms and the social media and the website, but all the things that we have to do to promote our markets, versus sort of the analog options of that, hanging posters and word of mouth and all the other ways in which we get the word out about? And then the second part is, I'm curious if you'll ever write a book about farmers markets or the food system.
If I'll what? Write a book about farmers markets?
Or the food system more broadly, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book about farmers markets. You can sit down.
Yeah, I will. I'll give you an endorsement. So let me write the first, a book about farmers markets would be a dream just for the like travel opportunities. It would be like a selfish reason to write it. I think I may have thought about it at one point in time. Catt's got that.
We'll collapse.
That's all good. Yeah, for sure. So the first part, what is the balance, right? Well, the rule of thumb for me is almost do like as they do in the software industry, which is, testing, A/B testing, right? You're like, if we, move our entire content creation strategy to AI or to this social platform, does it actually help us or does it actually make it worse? If we put up posters and spend $1,000 on posters in the neighborhood, does it bring in more people or does it not? try different things, digital, analog, whatever, and you'll find the right combination for you. I think the danger is when people are like, we have to just stick to only posters, or it's all about social. Forget that. Nobody reads the stuff. The fact is, people get their information from all sorts of places, right? They find out about it from social media. They find out about it from email newsletters. They find out about it from traditional news media, which might have a listing online or in the paper or whatever of where the market is. They find out about it from posters. They find out about it from friends and family. They find out by walking and seeing that there's like big flags. And they're like, ooh, what's that? It's a farmer's market. And I think the false promise of, especially sort of peak social media. So I'm talking like 2010 when people still thought Mark Zuckerberg was not
Good guy.
Good guy. I don't think he ever had that, but like not the devil. Was like, you only need to advertise on this and we'll get the information out to everyone. And it's just not true. You need to, as they say in the retail world, omni-channel, which is like people are going to find out about your market and its offerings and a special event or whatever in all sorts of different places. And there's people you're going to reach on Facebook, and there's people going to reach on Instagram, there's people going to reach on TikTok, people going to reach on blah, blah, blah. And there's people you're going to reach with a paper poster. And there's people going to reach with a flyer that you hand out at the market. And there's people, and it's like, well, do you want all of them or do you just want a certain segment? Or do you have the budget for a certain thing? But I think it's when it becomes sort of reductive and is seen as like the simplest solution, the most efficient solution, that you're going to start missing out on the benefits of those other things. So just experiment and try, and you'll find the balance that works for your own particular market. Thank you. That was a good question.
And I strongly recommend on the analog side that you think about tabling at other events. The people who come to farmers markets come because they like to see people in person and they like to have that dialogue. And we find that setting up a table at the Little League banquet or the local art festival or something else that's going on in your neighborhood, that kind of analog marketing absolutely draws the people that love farmers markets.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Interesting. I just wanted to make a comment. Years, I've been a 20 plus year customer of farmers markets, and we were headed on vacation, my wife and I, and the following day in the morning, and I said, she goes, where are you going? And I'm going to the farmers market. She goes, we don't need groceries. We're leaving. And I said, I know that. And she goes, why are you going? And I just said, I don't know. I feel I need to go. And it's just, I didn't really think about it, but there's a lot of truth to that. And somebody at that market, I've been buying eggs from them for over 20 years. And now she's a farmer in one of my markets, and she's still there. And her daughter, I remember when her daughter was born, and her daughter's now in college. And it's just, we tell the story. And this is just a long-term, there's several people I can say that about, that we still do business
right
all this time. So,
well, the interesting thing, bringing up that vacation thing, is like, yeah, we don't need eggs. We don't need all this food on a vacation. But what is a farmer's market at the end of the day, right? It is the most basic, primal market of commerce. And there's much more sophisticated and evolved markets of commerce. Your Costco's, your Amazon, your Whole Foods, your gleaming shopping malls, right? But there's kind of a sameness to all of those. I was thinking of that food hall that they built in Toronto that I went to last week. And you're like, it's just a food court. It's a fancier food court in a mall, but it's just a food court. And yet there's something unique about every farmer's market you go to. It's chaotic and it's jumbled and it's unpolished. And that's what makes it attractive, right? You're like, I'm going to go and there's going to be real people. And it doesn't matter if it's in a fancy community or if it's in a small town, like you're going to get that real sense of place and flavor. And again, that's something you can't manufacture and you can't replicate easily. Yes.
So I'm curious, as you've been traveling the world and talking about your books and either going to conferences or maybe book signings, what is the age demographic that is coming to see you? Because for me, this concerns me. I love analog things. I've talked to Catt about it a million times. But I think people that are under a certain age, I don't see it as much, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you'll give me hope.
This is the most common question I get. And less related, obviously, to farmers markets, which I don't talk about much, but more related to these other analog trends that I said. It's like, well, yeah. Sure, the geezers like you, the Gen X is just the last year of Gen X, but and the boomers, whatever, they're holding on to the record players, but like the young people are on their phone all the time. And it's true. The young people, the kids, are on their phone all the time. But when you look at actually the research and the statistics, it is this entire trend of sort of re-embracing analog goods and ideas has been driven almost entirely by Gen Z and younger. And why is that? The kids are all right. Why is that? Because for us, for my generation, let's say Gen X and older, digital is still new. It's still magic. Wow, I can do this thing and I could take a photo and it's on my phone. This is incredible. And for my kids who are, 12 and 9, like the coolest thing for them that I had to buy 2 years ago was the Fujifilm Instax camera. It's basically like the Fujifilm's Polaroid. And I'm like, why do you want this, guys? I knew why, but I was curious. And they're like, oh, well, the picture comes out and you can hold it and give it to friends or whatever. Like, it's just, to them, that's new. That's magical because they've only grown up with knowing photography as, tapping mom and dad's phone. And so again, if you only know groceries as ordering it online, let's say is the most extreme example, and then you happen upon a market, when you're in college or whatever, like when you're at the age where you're buying food for yourself and not just your parents are doing it, the joys of that experience that we talked about, all that stuff's going to come to you. And yes, they may be doing it while their faces in their phone or live streaming on their Maniverse podcast or whatever the hell that dude was doing. I don't want to judge him too hard. But he was really the type. But again, it's the benefit of that thing. And so I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's almost like, yes, those people are going to discover it for themselves, but the benefits of it sort of go all throughout that thing. And I certainly see, lots of young, but that's anecdotal. So it's not really a thing. Yes. Someone else had their hand up. Yes. In the back with the hat. We're out of time.
We'll do one more. Okay. You lost the mic.
Yeah. That's great. And I think the answer is, when in doubt, tote bags.
When in doubt, tote bags, but also apparently snail mail. So he was saying that he saves greeting cards and that he actually uses snail mail in addition to the email. When we started the Little Italy Mercado, email newsletters weren't yet a thing. And so we created a newspaper and we had a lot of people living in mid-rise and high rises around us. We couldn't hang door hangers, which I believe are just one of the secret weapons of analog is door hangers. If you're in a neighborhood that you can get them on the doors. But we created a newspaper for the community that we mailed to every door and got an incredible response. That snail mail, physical analog mail, it just hits a different way than email does to this day. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so great.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow Farmers Market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Catt Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in for another great episode.